Yeah, we don't do enough of this. But absolutely, please subscribe to our new motorsports channel because over time we are going to be making a complete overhaul, all from our Prime Sports Network channel to this channel, the Mystery Caution Motorsports channel. But anyway, the more subscribers that we could build up here, the easier it'll be for us to make the full switch. Anyway, I think I've said that enough. Let's go ahead and get started because this is going to be our first go attempt at just doing a quick report and then segueing into an edited version of our preview that we did earlier in the week. And that was on Tuesday, I believe. CJ and I recorded the preview for this week's race at Texas Motor Speedway. So I am recording this now at 2:15 on Saturday. This is post-practice and qualifying. So we're going to get into the trends that we talked about on Tuesday. So we're going to kind of refamiliarize yourself with that. Now that we've seen practice and qualifying, we don't get the odds yet, unfortunately. So we can only guess what they may be. So we're still going to go with our picks, obviously, from earlier in the week. And I'm going to update you, though, now after qualifying and practice on how I feel personally about which direction to go before tomorrow's race. Let's get started. First of all, I'm going to take a look at, again, kind of update you on the track trends from earlier this week. Okay? So here we go. Texas Motor Speedway, 1.5 mile tri-oval. Now, it's got the higher banking, which is the most similar to Charlotte. Now, even though the other two 1.5 mile tri-oval racetracks are Kansas and Vegas, so far out of those three racetracks, we only have one race, that's Las Vegas. So if you want to go back to Las Vegas and use some of that regarding this race, you can do that. I wouldn't use as a major trend, but I would just kind of put it in there. And sort of like if I liked the driver and somebody did well at Las Vegas, it would be a cherry on top. But if I liked the driver and he didn't do good at Vegas, I wouldn't completely rule him out over it either. Okay, next up, let's get to the fact that, and this is where it comes in from today's speed chart that we're going to get to in a little bit. 8 of the last 10 winners started in the top 10. So, I mean, 80%. Pretty easy to figure that out. But it's not 10 out of 10. But it does, again, show you the importance of qualifying in Texas just for the fact that it's just a really tough place to pass. It's a very boring racetrack. I'm not sure what the heck they're still doing here. They've got to make some changes or just get out because nobody likes the track. Okay, the farthest back a winner has started is 31st. That's not really particularly far, but over 43 races there, it is important to note that 6 times out of the 43, which is not a high percentage, you've had race winners that have started between 21st and 31st. So with that being, matter of fact, let me just go ahead and do a quick division on that. And that's 13%. All right, so there you go. Or is it 7%? I think it's 7% actually. It's even worse. Of the amount of times that you're going to get a race winner winning between 21st and 31st. But out of the last 10 races, remember, it's right there. 8 out of the last 10. The 2 winners that were not in the top 10, that did not start in the top 10, started 18th and 21st. Okay, next up. And lastly, there have been 7 different race winners in the last 7 at Texas. So, okay, take a look at the last 7. It's up to you if you want to take a completely different driver. Chevy drivers have won 3 straight, 4 out of 5. That's important. And also very interesting, no current Ford driver has won since Joey Logano in 2014. Wow, that's a long time. But even though there are some pretty decent signs of why Ford drivers should not be eliminated from this race. Okay, now we're going to take a look at the speed chart for today, care of jski.com. Let's go ahead as we roll into, there you go, this is the starting lineup, okay? So Kyle Larson, wow, he won the pole again. All right, so Kyle Larson, Ty Gibbs, they're going to be on the front row, and Larson was my top pick on Tuesday overall, even though I don't like his odds. And now forget it, because he's probably going to be 3 or 2 to 1 here. So I'm telling you right now, I just would not put money on Kyle Larson tomorrow. If you did not take him on Tuesday, definitely not taking him now if his odds are going to be as low as I imagine they're going to be. All right, and then you've got Gibbs, who really does not have a great track history here. So his odds, I would guess, are going to come down a little bit, but I look at that as a bad thing, to tell you the truth, because I wasn't going to take him anyway. He doesn't have a whole lot of success here in either series, so I don't imagine this being the one that he breaks his maiden NASCAR Cup Series victory, but hey, you never know. Bell, on the other hand, is definitely one of my top picks from earlier in the week. Matter of fact, CJ and I both agree on Bell. It's the only driver we agree upon as our top 3 picks. And Bell has come out of this, I feel, even better, just based on qualifying only. We'll get into that in just a minute. But the bad thing is that you were getting Bell at a decent price a few days ago, and now your price may not be so good. I think you were getting about 12-1. Or at least on my sportsbook, that's what I was getting yesterday. So he is probably, you might get that cut in half, actually. Maybe not. We'll talk about that in a minute. Then you got Reddick, and then the rest of them. Okay, so that's this is qualifying here. Here's all of them. Here's the big screw up here is Kyle Busch right there. All right, so Kyle, wait, where is he? There he is. Wait, here he is. Kyle Busch. Okay, not good. Kind of spun out, wrecked in practice. So he is already behind the 8 ball. We didn't like him anyway, even though he has a good history at this track. The history has not looked so good with the new car, and it continues to not look that way. So I don't care what Kyle Busch gets. He's not going to be somebody that I'm turning to on Sunday. Chase Elliott, very disappointing 24th. Logano, a disappointing 20th, but we'll get back to him in a little bit. And that's about it. I wouldn't really look at anybody else that I would say is completely disappointing. Chevy on the pole, as we just talked about, winning 3 straight. But Toyota's got the next 3 drivers. Okay, so next up, where am I? Tell you what, we could do it here. Next up, let's go to practice. Okay, so... And, of course, this is important. This Gibbs again. Now, I'm going to go over the drivers that are the top drivers based on both qualifying and practice. Okay. Gibbs, Larson, clearly the top 2. Gibbs will start second, fastest practice. Larson on the pole, third, fastest practice. All right. Gibbs, you're still getting pretty decent odds. So, as long as you're getting decent odds still, I would definitely take a look at Gibbs. But, like I said what I said about Larson. Bell. Now, look at this. This is the unfortunate thing about Bell. Take a look at this. 21st in qualifying. That is not what we want to see from Christopher Bell after a really good practice qualifying run. Maybe that will save us from the odds if you did not already take him. See, I already got him, but if you didn't already take him, I would only take him now if I'm getting the good odds. If he drops like in half, I would think twice. All right, Reddick is also looking pretty good here because Reddick will start 4th, and he also was 7th in practice. So that's a good combination there. The only thing with Reddick that we both kind of laughed about was how high his odds were, or low, whichever way you want to put it. Now, look, he's got a win here, and he's got some good other results here, both in Xfinity and in Cup. And he was also second in Vegas. But I just didn't like his odds where they were on Tuesday. I would have preferred to take a look at how he started off here, which is good. Unfortunately, the odds are so low that I'm still a hard pass on Reddick. Unless I'm getting... See, now I'm all right with 6 to 8 to 1 on Saturday. So if I can still get him at 6 to 8 to 1 on Saturday, I'm all right with that. I'm not doing it on Tuesday. But after watching him qualify and practice well today, if he's run that same number, I'm okay with that. If he is now 4 to 1 because of that, then I'm still passing on Reddick. Those odds are just too low. And the other driver that looks really good right outside the top 2 would be Blaney. All right, so there you go. Blaney is 6th, qualified 7th. It's a very solid combo there, and you're going to get good odds on Blaney. So I don't foresee Blaney's odds dropping all that much. Now maybe he goes down to 9 or 8 to 1, possibly. I still think that's a good enough number to take him if you haven't already gone with him early in the week. The other drivers that I think would be good bargains even at this time, take a look at Chastain because he practiced 4th. All right, and he qualified 12th. So I think Chastain is somebody that needs a little bit of looking at, because he was 4th at Vegas and runner-up here last year. By far his best result at this racetrack. And I still think you're going to get decent odds on Chastain. Bowman, we liked Bowman because of his odds. He's still getting kind of disrespecting odds, and I'm not really too concerned with the combination here from Bowman. 14th qualifying, not great, but that wasn't bad. Most importantly, he improved upon that to 5th. So I think that's important, and you're going to get good odds on him still. I also think you're going to continue to get good odds on Logano, because he started 20th, and yet this is what I wanted to see, an improvement up to 9th. And then the only one I want to also add is Keselowski, because Keselowski, even though I'm not going to go with Keselowski unless I'm getting a really generous number, because Keselowski, he had a really bad run at qualifying, was 22nd. But he's second now in practice today. So that's a very solid effort, fastest forward. With Keselowski, keep in mind he's never won here. Even when he was a Penske team, never won. But in his last 5 appearances, he has a 6.8 average. That's good. The odds are going to be good. The qualifying effort was good. So if I'm getting generous odds from Keselowski, and I'm talking like close to the 20s, if I'm getting that, 15 maybe at the best, then I might be looking at throwing a buck or two on Keselowski as a long shot. And then just to others to throw in there, Briscoe and Byron were both faster in qualifying than practice. Truex was around 10th in both. We didn't like Truex this week anyway. Denny Hamlin, this is where we want to see Denny, because we weren't going to. Actually, this is where I want to see him. CJ actually picked Hamlin as one of his top picks. And by the way, CJ also has Briscoe as a long shot, and I have Logano as a long shot. Jones, unfortunately, was very slow today, and that's very disappointing. So I think we're kind of cooked there with Jones as a long shot. But I still think now Logano should be a good long shot. Keselowski should be a good long shot. I think Bowman's still going to be a good long shot. And I think those are the long. Oh, Briscoe might still be a pretty good long shot at this time. But anyway, Hamlin did not get a top 10 in either qualifying or practice. And since I did not take him this week, then I'm happy about that. Because keep in mind, even though he has a very good historical record here, he's only led 292 laps over 33 races. He's led just 15 laps in his last 7 races at Texas. And 2 top 5s out of his last 9. One of those was a win in 2019. And I'm reminded what I talked about on Tuesday, that Kyle Busch swept this track in 2010, and you would think, wow, he must have dominated. No, he didn't. He led a total of 43 laps in both races. So there you go. That's what is going on for the Autotrader EchoPark Automotive 400, race number 9 on the NASCAR Cup Series for 2024. This being, thank goodness, the only time they're going to be at Texas for the season. I'm going to segue now into the edited version of our video from Tuesday. If you want the complete video, then that's where you check out Prime Sports Network. So make sure you subscribe to both Prime Sports Network and here at Mystery Caution, because like I said, we're eventually moving over here to Mystery Caution. So the sooner you get started here with subscribing, the easier it'll be for us and the quicker it'll be for us to make the full transition over here, which is just motorsports and motorsports only. So let's go ahead and check out what we talked about on Tuesday's broadcast. And good luck, everybody. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them here. If you want to talk a little bit back and forth, you can always subscribe on our Discord. Either way, best of luck tomorrow, and we'll catch you next time. Let's start with Kyle Larson, who's the leader at 4-1. And look, I don't think that he's so much better than some of these other drivers for me to waste my money at this point in time at 4-1. That's way too low for me. I know that he's won here before, and keep this in mind. He led from the pole back in 21. 256 of 334 laps. So he dominated that race. But if he's been just very inconsistent here, and that's the problem. If you look at his last 8 races alone, he's had finishes of 1st, 5th, 9th, 12th, along with 31st, 36th, 37th, and 39th. That's just way too much inconsistency for me to be putting a big money on somebody who's only 4-1.
Yeah, I don't disagree. It's pretty interesting to see Larson getting this price. I think it's primarily due to the fact that he's got 3 top 5s in the last 4 races, more so than what specifically he's done at Texas. Because like you said, if you look at the surface of it, he led 99 laps last year before getting into a crash and finishing in 31st, 19 the year before. He started 9th and finished 9th that year. And the year before that was the 256 lap dominator that he won from pole. So yeah, it's by far a sure thing from him coming out to be the favorite and going out to win, this weekend. Exactly as you said, the inconsistency, but based on the fact that a 2nd last week at Martinsville, a 3rd at Richmond, then 2 weeks prior to that, a 5th at Bristol, he's certainly on the swing of momentum, and I think that's where that optimism is coming from in that price point. But I'd like to see him a little bit lower. I agree with you.
Yeah, I think he's clearly one of the favorites. He should be. I just can't take anybody at 4-1. And he's a favorite by 2 points, which I don't see that. Okay. Now, the 2 right behind him are Reddick and Hamlin. And Reddick, taking a look at Reddick. So this is a good track for Reddick. It's not like he's dominated here, but he has a win. He has a couple of top 5s overall. And he was runner-up here, actually, in his very first appearance, which was a pretty nice trick. His last 2 races, he led 36 and won the race, leading 70 laps. That was a couple years ago. He has also 3 top 5s in 6 Xfinity Series races with 2 runner-ups and a win. So this is a good track for Reddick. But now it's just like we're cutting his odds generally in half, and even more than half of what he normally is on a weekly basis. And again, I like him, but I don't like him at 6-1. I like him at 10-1 right now, 8-1 the lowest. I just, I got to pump the brakes on a Tuesday at 6-1.
Yeah, for Reddick too. The consistency, I think so far that isn't there for me. Yeah, he's got speed. Yeah, he's pretty good at Texas, does some good things. Like you said, first time out, gets a 2nd place finish from, I think he started 24th, if I'm not mistaken, that time. In the playoff standings, no less right now. But just from week to week, like 3 top 10s in the last 5, but at Bristol, he was 30th. And then the week before that at Phoenix, he was 10th. So he's got some tracks that he's good at. I think he'll be fast here in Phoenix, but I don't know why, again, for a little bump up higher in the odds, you wouldn't go with somebody like Hamlin, who's got 1, 2, 3 finishes of 4 finishes of 11th or better from the last 4 here at Texas for Denny Hamlin. Plus he's a 4-time winner, or 3-time winner, excuse me. So this track with somebody like Hamlin, who's on the roll that he's on right now with the speed that he's got, regardless of where Hamlin starts on Sunday, I think he's going to find his way to the front. He's been able to do that every single week so far this season. Whereas Reddick, who's a little bit more expensive in the odds, doesn't have that same kind of momentum on his side right now going into Texas. So I would go with Hamlin of the 2, certainly.
Yeah, when I'm looking at Hamlin, I think the thing that I would be, and again, I'm not comparing the 2 of them, just generally, if I'm comparing the rest of the field, we know he has a very good history here. But let's just keep this in mind with Hamlin. And I'm not talking about how he's racing this year, because obviously that's the main reason why, in my opinion, that you'd want to go with him. How the start he's off to, and historically, he's been good here with 3 wins. Keep in mind, he led 43 total laps when he swept this racetrack in 2010 total. And he only has 292 laps led ever at this track in 33 races. Matter of fact, he's led 15 laps total in his last 7 appearances at Texas, with just 1 top 5. 2 top 5s in his last 9, but one of those was a win in 2019. And then the other thing I'd be a little bit concerned with Hamlin, again, with the field, is just that he got hot on the short tracks. Even though, and again, you can compare Phoenix to a short track in generally because it's very similar, flat, to Richmond. But he's still Denny Hamlin. And I definitely feel a lot more comfortable with Denny Hamlin, as you said, at 6-1 than I would at Tyler Reddick at 6-1. Even though I think there are warts too with Denny Hamlin at 6-1 generally. So that's why at this point, me personally, I wouldn't take any of these drivers on a Tuesday. But Hamlin definitely the best because he's getting the best odds. So, all right, and then you got Byron at 7-1, and with Byron, and then Blaney at 8-1. The thing with Byron is, first of all, he's defending champ, and he won last week. That's a lot to ask to win 2 straight at a track, 2 straight on the year, and a 4th on the year. It's a lot to ask at 7-1. I'd like 10-1 if I could get it, but 7-1. I think you should get an extra couple of bonus points just for how difficult it's going to be to accomplish that for Byron, but they're not going to give it to us. Look, we understand why that's the case because he's off to a great start. He's driving a Chevy. Keep it, and his last 3 races, 1st, 7th, and 2nd. So yeah, there's a lot to like about what Byron's doing right now. I tell you the truth. I mean, at this point, just talking about these 4 drivers, I'd probably go with Byron if I was just choosing these 4 drivers.
Yeah, I mean, certainly for the price, you're almost getting twice your money for going him over Larson. But yeah, like you said, the chances of not only winning back-to-back races at the track from season to season, but then winning back-to-back as well, week to week, last week after Martinsville. It was such a dominant performance. I wonder if there's going to be any kind of hangover on the Hendrick cars and you know, the alternative that you have in this grouping, you look at Larson and you're getting a payout of half as much for, you know, twice the risk to go with Larson over Byron. But yeah, I think it, for me, probably would go with Byron just because of the momentum that he's got. But I do think Hamlin of that bunch, actually, you know what, maybe even Reddick, but Hamlin certainly from a notch higher. As we talked about with Reddick, Hamlin probably be the one that I would end up going with, to be honest with you.
You know, this is interesting because Byron is getting almost twice the money, and yet they've both raced here and have 1 win each. By the way, Larson's career average here is 18th. It's 18.6. We told you about his inconsistency. Byron has 3 wins on the year. He's defending champ, and he's almost getting twice as much as Larson. To me, that's name recognition only. That's all it can be. It can't be anything more than that.
Yeah, the money is probably just going to the fact that Larson, again, has been close. If you're a casual watcher, you're not watching every single race, you're tuning in, you're flipping to something else. Larson's name up there the past couple of weeks has been at the front each of those weeks. I think that's really what's driving it. Yeah, so exactly as you said, name recognition because he's been running at the front but hasn't been able to make that break through the victory lane over the past couple of weeks, I think is more behind the momentum.
All right. Next up is Blaney, and I think Blaney, now his odds went down a little bit. It's at 8-1 now. I don't want to see it go down much further than that because I think the odds are really good for Blaney here. And look, I know he's driving a Ford, but just the fact that he hasn't won yet in the Cup Series leads me to believe that this week will be a good week to take him because he hasn't won here yet. Because if you look at it, 8 top 10s out of 15, 4 of those top 5s. He's led over 432 laps here in 15 races. I just mentioned the fact that Hamlin has 292 in 33 races. Blaney, in his last 10 races at Texas, has an average of 10.7, and that includes a crash and an overheating issue during that time span. So that's crazy. Throw in the fact that in the Xfinity Series, 6 top 10s, 6 appearances, 5 top 5s overall, 3 runner-ups, and a win. Come on. I mean, the kid is completely overdue for a win here, and I'm getting 8-1. Again, a couple of days ago it was 10. So I would take Blaney today, because the odds might continue to fall, especially if he has a good qualifying effort.
Before I actually looked at the trends of Texas, to be honest with you, I had it stuck in my mind that the Fords, and specifically the Penske Fords, tended to be pretty good at this track. So I was surprised that the last current Ford driver winner, I wasn't surprised it was Logano, but I was surprised at how far back it went. If you look at Blaney, he was 4th in 2022, 6th in 2021, 4th in 2020, 7th in 2020 in the spring, 8th in 2019. That's 5 straight top 10s, 2 of which were top 5s. And he led 100 and almost 200 laps in that span alone, and just those 5 races. Ended up crashing out last year, didn't have a great qualifying effort, but if he qualifies inside the top 15, I completely agree with you. I think Blaney is one to take, assuming he starts inside of those first 7 rows or so.
Truex is 10-1, and if you take a look at Martin, who did not have a good week last week, which is very surprising. Mm-hmm. Not sure exactly what happened there, but maybe carryover from the week before. The thing I'm a little bit concerned with is 2 things, which is why I can't take him this week. There's no way, no reason I see to take him this week. And first of all, last week everything was for him, and he still wasn't able to put it together. But he has 5 top 5s in 34 appearances. He has led 689 laps. That's good. But in the new car, he's finished 17th and 31st. And in his last 3 races here, he's crashed twice with a 17th. Yeah, especially at 10-1. I mean, give me 16-1, maybe. Then I'll think about it after qualifying. But yeah, no way would I even come close to Martin Truex Jr. at 10-1 on Tuesday.
I don't know what track you're ever going to get Martin Truex at 16-1, but
road course, COA.
Maybe a road course. Yeah, but
Daytona?
Yeah. Precisely. Talking about Blaney just before, he's the exact opposite. 4 out of the last 5 were not even top 15s at this track. And yeah, he had a 2nd place finish and led 53 laps. But like you said, that was in the old car in the fall of 2020. I just don't see the trends there. I think from a fantasy perspective, he's probably going to be a decent top 15, top 10 kind of guy, assuming no mistakes happen and no major issues like they encountered last week, which was just an off week, that was so super strange after the week prior, how strong he was at Richmond. To just have nothing the entire weekend at Martinsville for him was very surprising. So yeah, the recent Texas trends in particular, plus the fact that they missed out last weekend, Truex is definitely not somebody I would go with this weekend.
And he qualified and practiced well last week too. It just didn't look like there was any reason for whatever happened last week to happen. Okay. You got Christopher Bell at 12-1. Now we start getting to the point where, all right, well, do we have some bargains? And yes, I believe we do here with Christopher Bell. And that's because he has 3 top 5s in 5 appearances. He's an average finish of 13th. And then throw in the fact that in the Xfinity Series, 3 top 5s out of 5, runner-up in a win, throw in 2 poles, almost 300 laps led. He also has a truck win on this track in 2017. So he's another one of these drivers that looks like he's due for a cup win here, and I'm getting 12-1. So right now, the drivers I like earlier in the week, based on the odds, Blaney and now Bell.
Yeah, 3rd, 34th, and 4th in his last 4 Texas starts. Plus, he's been extremely fast so far this season. I think from a bargain standpoint, Bell is one that you probably have to take this week.
Okay, Chastain is 14-1, and so is Chase Elliott. And I like them both, again, because of the odds. I like Elliott better. I like the fact that Elliott seems like he's getting a little bit closer now. Back-to-back top 5s. He's not leading laps, but he's, baby steps. Now, he hasn't led a lap here since his first 2 appearances, which is kind of strange. He had first 2 appearances, top 5s. Since then, no top 5s last 11. He's only led 89 laps here in 13 races, so not that great. All top 10s in Xfinity Series, that's 5 of them. 3 top 5s and a win. So he's had success in the Xfinity Series. He's shown success here. He's number 1. He's not dominated. So I like him. But so if I'm going to take him, I'm taking him here. I just can't take him if he qualifies well when those odds drop to 8-1 or something. So I'd much rather take him at 14-1. And Chastain never really did much here until last year when he was runner-up. Now again, he's never led laps here. He's at 2 out of 7. But again, we have a Chevy runner-up last year. That's why, and the odds are 14. So I like Elliott better. I don't like these guys like I like Bell and Blaney, but they're like the next kind of group that I like based on the odds.
Yeah, I think Elliott's going to be pretty reliable compared to a Chastain. I think Chastain could probably come out and score a top 5 and maybe even contend for the win. But like you said, he's only done that once so far.
And by the way, where was it? Las Vegas.
Well, yeah, true.
So it's a little tiny something.
Yeah,
so.
Very true. Yeah, like you said, 2 laps led, so it wouldn't be surprising to see Chastain come out and score something really good this weekend. But I think from a reliability standpoint here, as we're looking at Tuesday, I like Elliott better just because he's got the better history. He's a little bit more reliable over more races. 13, he's been up there at the front inside the top 10 for a significant portion. And if you look at, he hasn't been great here with the new car, but that's when he did lead laps. He led 44 laps in 2022 before crashing out. So this weekend could be good. He's got a lot of momentum on his side. Like that, I think as long as this team continues to show what they showed the past couple of weeks, even with the Martinsville finish, even though he slipped back behind Larson at the end there, I think Elliott's due for a win shortly, and that would end more than a season's year's worth of winless streak there.
By the way, now that I'm looking at it, I think we have the answer to some of the reasons why the odds are the way they are. Larson's win, Las Vegas. Reddick, second, Las Vegas. So I think they're taking what happened at the other 1.5 mile track. But again, it's not as similar. So that's the thing, that if they are doing that, then I think you should take advantage of that, because I think that's too much. I wouldn't push these guys in that spot just based on Las Vegas. So
completely agree. This track is very different. It's even different than Charlotte because they reduced the banking in turns 1 and 2. So you have to run a different line in turns 1 and 2 at Texas than you do in 3 and 4. The banking is significantly steeper. It's a different configuration. Just because you're fast at Las Vegas does not mean you're going to be fast at Texas. Yeah, 1.5 mile ovals tend to race similarly, but this is very much a different track compared to Las Vegas.
All right, now let's get to the 16-1 shots. Gibbs and Wallace. I don't see Gibbs this week. I haven't seen much, both Xfinity and Cup, for me to say, yeah, this is the week to go with Gibbs. And for Wallace, though, you don't usually get Bubba outside of Atlanta or Daytona at this number, at 16-1. But that worries me a little bit because he's not usually down this point. But we understand why, because he's coming off a solid showing last week. He was on the pole here last year, led 111 laps, finished 3rd. So that's as good as it gets for Wallace on one of these types of tracks. So yeah, all of that's nice. I still like a little bit more odds, but and I don't know how much more he'd drop. I guess he could, because I've looked at the odds, and even though he's qualified well, like the last week or two, I haven't seen the odds drop that much. So I'm not too worried about being patient with Wallace and waiting until qualifying to see if he's just see how he reacts, because I don't think you're going to lose many points even if he does well at qualifying.
Yeah, and if you look at his average start here, it's 16.3. I think he only had one top 10 start before he ended up getting that pole last year at this track. Ended up leading 111 laps, finished 3rd. Wallace, I think, is a decent pick at this price. Like you, I don't think he's going to drop very much, so maybe worth waiting to see. For me, he's I put him in the same bucket as a Chastain, like just recently showing some kind of success at this track. So it wouldn't surprise me to see him come out and be competitive and be inside the top 10, but there is a lot of uncertainty around him. For him, you might as well wait. I think if you get Chastain qualifying on pole, you'll probably see his odds drop a lot further than somebody like Wallace qualifying inside the top 10.
All right, now the two at surprisingly big odds, Busch at 18 and Logano at 20. I out of the two, even though Kyle's got the Chevy, I'm taking Logano.
Sure.
Yeah.
No question.
Yeah. Second, not too long ago, Kyle Busch, unfortunately, is off to a bad start, as we said. And matter of fact, on this track with the new car, 34th, 36th. And that's even though he's won 4 times here and has an average of 12.3. Hasn't worked with the new car. Logano, it has. Second and 21st with the new car. And this year, the last 2 races, 6th and 2nd. So one driver is heating up, the other is not. And yeah, I don't see any reason why you wouldn't. And now's a good time to take Logano too. That's a healthy number right now.
Absolutely, I think you got to jump on Logano. I think Penske and Penske Fords have been fast at this track, and it's been pretty consistent. They may not have made it into victory lane recently, as we talked about earlier, but certainly if Logano comes out and all the Penske's come out, at least 2 of them, Cindric probably won't, but Cindric's been qualifying well. I shouldn't say that. But if Logano and Blaney qualify up front, I think their odds are going to drop tremendously. And Logano at that price is well worth taking here on a team like Texas, where he's actually been very good. Finished second in 2022, leading 15 laps.
All right, now we got Bowman at 22, Buescher 28, Keselowski 28. And Bowman, he's got a couple top 5s, nothing special. His average is pretty bad. It's almost 24th. But his last 4 races this year, 3 top 10s, 2 top 5s, nothing outside the top 20, and he's a Chevy. And look, I prefer the 25, 30 we've been getting, but 22, it's okay. I mean, I still much rather have Logano than Bowman around this number. But, Bowman, because he's driving a Chevy and the way he's driving, take it into consideration. Maybe because Bowman could do these things. He could steal a win on Sunday and it would not surprise us. That's how he wins races most of the time. Buescher and Keselowski, though, Buescher, it's a hard pass. This is not a good track for Buescher. And for Keselowski, it's one of those things where you take a look at his history, before last year and all that. And even when he was with Penske at the time, never won here. But his last 5 results here, he has a 6.8 average. So that's the thing. It's not like he's had a lot of laps led or anything like that, but his results are good. So fantasy-wise, he's probably a really good play, nice little underdog play to get into the top 10 or maybe even the top 5. But I don't know about winning. The good news is you're getting 28-1.
Yeah, completely agree with that. I think Buescher, interestingly, only has 2 top 15 finishes here, no top 10s. Last year was his best finish at this track, a 14th place, and he started on the front row that day. So maybe this team's getting the 1 lap speed, a couple of short run speed, things going their way. They certainly haven't been able to figure it out over an entire race distance, maybe even the fuel distance. So I agree with you. I think of this bunch, if there's anybody that I'm going to take, it's going to be Bowman. I think as long as he stays and hovers around the top 10, like you said, he's going to sneak a win out, and everybody's going to be like, where did he come from?
Yeah.
And you and I are going to be sitting here saying he does that all the time.
That's right. Told you. All right. Next, we go to the long shot. So out of all these long shots, the one that sticks out to me, the only one actually, is Jones. Because a couple of things. He's starting to race better. He's got 12th and 14th his last 2 results, which actually, considering the start he got off to, is pretty good. But if you look at it, 3 top 5s out of 12 in his career in the Cup. He's got a truck win in 2015. In the Xfinity Series, he has been in this track 6 times. All top 5s, runner-up, 3 wins. He's led 368 laps. And his average finish, 2.2. Now, that's Xfinity Series, but still, it shows you that this has been a good track for Jones over his career, one of his best. And that's why if I'm taking a long shot, I'm taking Eric Jones.
7 top 10s out of 12 in the Cup Series, 3 top 5s out of 12 in the Cup Series at this track alone, 116 laps led and 12 tries. I think Eric Jones, I've been saying it almost every single week, he's somebody that you got to keep an eye on this season. I think this team has made significant progress over the winter. They just haven't fully been able to get it every single week. I think what you are looking at in Erik Jones and this team is a consistent top 15 finisher. And if you can do that throughout the entire season, you're going to be in the playoff hunt, whether you have a winner or not. And if you look at just Jones's results, 12th and 14th, Martinsville and Richmond. The only other time he had a top 15 so far this year was at Las Vegas, the other 1.5 mile oval. So I completely agree. I think from a long shot perspective, this is a great track for Jones. I think they've got the consistency on a week-to-week basis there, and they've had the speed all season. They just haven't had the luck and the execution to go along with it. But they've got that the past 2 weeks, so I'm not afraid of going with Jones this week yet again.
All right. And just some quick notes before we wrap up on the other long shots. Suarez has been pretty decent here. Last three, 8th, 12th, and 10th, but not going all that well overall in his last three in the series. And then I also want to mention Nemechek, first Cup, I believe it's his first Cup race here. 5 top 10s had a 6 in Xfinity Series, 4 top 5s, 2 wins, and a truck win in 21. Cindric has an average of 4.9 in the Xfinity Series with a win out of 8 races there. And then you also have Hocevar. He's got a truck win here last year. Noah Gragson has 3 top 5s and a win in 8 Xfinity Series races. His win was 2022. Austin Dillon has a Cup win in 2020. And Harrison Burton has an Xfinity Series win in 2020. But like I said, and I think maybe you agree with me, Erik Jones is the real only long shot to, use your money on. By the way, Briscoe could be interesting just because I like the odds at 80-1. He's got a runner-up and a pole in Xfinity Series, and in 3 Cup races, 10th, 5th, and 15th, which is not all that bad. He's racing much better this year, including 10th last week.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, of that bunch, Chase Briscoe is probably going to be the one you want to go with. He hasn't finished worse than 15th. Granted, he's only got 3 Texas starts, but he was 5th and 10th the last 2 times here. Hasn't led a lap, but I mean, just 3 races at a track. All 3 of them are top 15s. The last 2 are top 5 and the top 10. Briscoe he's not slow. I think he can. I think he can be competitive, and I think he's capable of a top 10 this week. Maybe top 5 is a stretch, but if things fall his way, maybe late caution or whatever, if he's able to be there in contention, regardless of where he starts, I think he's going to be somebody that's going to be in there.
Yeah, we expected Briscoe to have a big year last year, and it didn't happen. And so I think what's important to note is that Stuart Haas has gone through so many changes the last few years that he's like the man now. And it's crazy to think that, but I think that's a good thing. They know at this point this year, the team knows, this is our best chance this year. And so he's going to get all the good stuff. And so far, I think we're seeing it. I think Chase has got to win. I think he's potentially a playoff driver this year.
Would not surprise me to see him get a win. I think he's been pretty consistent despite that, but despite the perception, but very quiet at doing it. I mean, remember last year started off extremely strongly, but then ended up getting that penalty, and that kind of thwarted his season until the very end. It took him almost the entire year to recover, but they're kind of back to where they were before. Maybe half a step behind where they were at the start of last season. So finished 10th here at Texas last year, and that was in the fall. That was the 30th race of the season. So it's a different point in this season. He's still got momentum on his side early. So I do think Chase Briscoe might be a very good long shot.
All right, let's go with our picks. And I'll go, again, these just picks based on nothing other than what I see probably taking place. I mean, I'll say, because I have Bell and Blaney in my top 3, I definitely have to throw one of the big Chevys in there, so I will go with Larson. So I'll go Larson, Blaney, Bell, and then Logano and Jones are the obvious long shots. I think you agree with me there. I think you agree with me at least on a few of these. So how are you going to do it?
Yeah, from a top 3, I'm actually just going to go down the point standings, and I'm going to go Hamlin, Larson, and Bell. I just think Hamlin's been awfully close recently. I think it's worth taking somebody that's not a Chevy. Larson of the Chevys, you know, from an odds perspective, terrible. You don't want to go with 4-1. But from a competitive standpoint and momentum standpoint, he's there. But then certainly from all around choices, I think Bell's certainly from the top there.
And your long shots, same?
From a long shot perspective, Jones, and then why not? I put Briscoe as my long shot.
Like it. All right. So Briscoe and Jones. There's a couple of long shots. But they're both getting big money. I think they're both getting 80-1. So, yeah, both getting 80-1. So get it now before qualifying.